Hello, Community Council. My name is Rebecca Ryan. I'm the founder of Next Generation Consulting and the inventor of the Handprint process that your pit dogs are recommending to you. I wanted to take just a few moments to address why this might make sense for you and also help you think about why maybe you should move forward. And having said all that, this is very odd because I feel like I'm selling myself and trying to do it virtually. But the truth is, and I've told this to the pit dogs all along as well, that we're not going anywhere. Our firm is going to be around for a long time. So whether we work with you on this project or if we work with you on one in the future, it's all good with us. That said, I know that there's a handprint proposal on the table. So let me share with you my 13 years of experience in working with cities and why this handprint thing sort of makes sense. I sent along with Mike and his band of merrymakers our next cities list, and on the second page of that you can see that little diagram right here. That's the handprint. And what the handprint does is it measures your community in 7 areas that we believe are tied to quality of life. I think the best metaphor for this is that when you go to your doctor and they want to get a sense of your, overall health, they measure your blood pressure, they take blood work because they want to get at your cholesterol. They do a battery of tests. And what this handprint does is it gives your sort of test scores in 7 areas that get at your community's quality of life or its, overall attractiveness to knowledge workers. So that's, something that's kind of cool, but it's not really anything revolutionary. I mean, if you look at the descriptors of these 7 indexes that we measure in your handprint, there's nothing like, truly innovative about it, but there is something even within that that's kind of neat that we've noticed, and that is these 7 indexes give your community kind of like a language to talk about themselves. So as an example, right, the vitality index here, that index gets at sort of the health of the Lafayette area, right? No magic science to that. We look at air and water quality, we look at public parks and trails and recreation areas, things like that. And you might say, well, yeah, we know that those things belong in a community with a great quality of life, and they do. But what the Vitality Index does is it takes a little basket of measures and it turns it into a single index, the Vitality Index, that gets at the community's health. And each one of the indexes does the same thing. They have each one has a very simple name. They measure a small basket of things that sort of point at that index. And so one of the things that we've noticed is that these indexes give our clients a language that they can talk about quality of life in just these 7 categories or headers, which also is helpful when it comes to prioritizing. Because one of the things that happens when our clients use a handprint is you can see Madison's handprint here. I'm actually recording this from Madison. Madison is where our headquarters is. But one of the things that you'll notice is that, the bigger your handprint, sort of the cooler your community is. And when you choose communities against which you want to benchmark, you very quickly can see with your handprint whether you've got a big fat handprint compared to those benchmark communities or whether you've got a tiny little handprint. And that's one of the things that I want to caution you on, that if we move forward, I really want you to think about choosing some aspirational targets. We've worked with clients in the past who, choose Detroit and Cleveland and other communities as their benchmark targets because maybe 50 years ago those cities made sense to benchmark against. But we really want your handprint to stretch your thinking. We want you to be thinking aspirationally. We want you to think about the community that you want the greater Lafayette area to become, right? So we encourage you to use some stretch targets. I also want to address the next generation thing head on. The name of our firm is Next Generation Consulting, and when I started it 13 years ago, I had less gray hair. I actually was a member of the next generation, and I'm not anymore. I'm a Generation Xer, and we've got millennials coming up along the way. And one of the things that I've learned about being in business, and I'm sure that any of you who are in business can attest to this, is it's always amazing how stupid you were 2 weeks ago. And when I started NGC in 1998, I thought that we just needed to focus on what mattered to the next generation. And what I've learned since then is that while that had been our focus, I've had people from ages 18 to 88 come up to me and say, well, these 7 indexes, right, these matter to me too. And that's one of the cool things I think about this work is that when you start looking at quality of life isn't something that only the next generation defines. Quality of life is really about meeting basic human needs. Yes, for, safety and health, but also aesthetic needs and cultural needs, the needs of the creative class, which speaks to the humanity within each of us. So I just want to address this next gen thing head on and say that our work in your community, while it was inspired by looking at what attracts and retains the next generation, we plan a completely inclusive process where we'll be able to slice and dice, what attributes matter the most to which kinds of people, whether they're purple-haired people or blue-haired people or gray-haired people, folks with tattoos and tongue rings, or folks who are looking forward to retirement. It'll be a very inclusive process. Finally, I just want to share a couple of ideas that I hope will help take you over the finish line in your thinking. And I know that you've got one private funder who's put up the money for the bulk of this, but she or he will not move forward if other people don't agree that this work needs to happen. And I think that's a really smart move on their part. So let me give you a couple of ideas why I think this might make sense for Greater Lafayette. As you think about being a city of the future, right? And making sure that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you. It's going to make sense to work with a firm, I think, that's been studying the trends and can help you be on the correct side of those trends. Not the back side, but on the front side. One of our clients said about us, he said, he's from Saskatoon in Canada, he said, "You guys are just like Richard, Florida, but you have data." And I think that's another thing that is really unique about us, is that we talk about quality of life, but we have these really, geeky, data-centric measures that we look at. And I think for those of you who really care about making data-driven decisions, which I know I do as a business owner, this kind of stuff is right in your wheelhouse. It's not airy-fairy, it's not light and fluffy. It is data-driven, metric-oriented, index-oriented. So, whether we work with you this time on this handprint, or whether we work with you somewhere down the road to help you become a city of the future, I wish you good luck in your deliberations, and I welcome your questions directly. You can reach me toll-free at 888-922-9596 or via email at rr, those are my initials for Rebecca Ryan, rr@nextgenerationconsulting.com. Thanks.